Assalamu alaikum students. I'm Dr. Faisal Yakar, demonstrator from the anatomy department. Okay, as you already studied these ulnar and radial nerve in the arm, forearm, and now we will study this ulnar and radial nerve in the hand. So the superficial branch of the radial nerve, it is also known as the superficial radial nerve. It is the continuation of the radial nerve. It descends in front of the lateral side of the forearm and it reaches the dorsum of the hand. Dorsum means back of the hand. Okay, it has no branches in the forearm and it reaches the dorsum of the hand, and here it is divided into two branches, and it is a sensory cutaneous nerve that arises from the radial nerve. Okay, as the branch of the radial nerve, the superficial radial nerve, it receives fibers from all roots of the brachial plexus, C5 to T1, and it branches under the proximal tendon of brachioradialis muscle in the upper to middle third of the forearm. And the superficial branch of the radial nerve travels in the posterior compartment of the forearm, descending in a plane between the pronator teres and brachioradialis muscle, and the nerve emerges from beneath the brachioradialis muscle over the roof of anatomical snuff box, providing a medial and lateral terminal branch. Okay, so this is the superficial branch of radial nerve, and it is sensory branch, and it innervates the skin of the thumb, index, and middle finger. Okay, so the medial branch is the larger of the terminal branches of the superficial radial nerve, and it innervates the ulnar aspect of the dorsum of the thumb, dorsum of the index, and middle fingers, and radial aspect of the fourth finger. The lateral branch of the superficial radial nerve provides sensation to the radial aspect of the thumb as well as dorsal surface of the base of the thumb. So the superficial radial nerve is lateral to the radial artery in the forearm. Okay, here you can see the superficial branch of the radial nerve. It innervates the ulnar aspect of the dorsum of the thumb, the dorsum of the index and middle finger, and the radial aspect of the fourth finger. Okay, radial or lateral aspect of the fourth finger. And the lateral branch of this superficial nerve, it provides sensation to the radial aspect of the thumb as well as dorsal surface of base of thumb. Okay, so this is the superficial radial nerve, and this emerges from beneath the brachioradialis muscle to rise over the roof of anatomical snuff box. This is the anatomical snuff box, which we will study later. So these are present between the extensor muscles, which we will later study it in detail. At this stage only, just remember that at the lateral side of the thumb there is an anatomical snuff box, and the superficial radial nerve, it passes over the roof of the anatomical snuff box and divides into medial and lateral terminal branch. Okay, so this one is the medial terminal branch and this was is the lateral terminal branch. So medial terminal branch, it provides sensations to the thumb, index and middle finger, and the lateral branch, it provides sensation to the radial aspect of the thumb as well as the dorsal surface of base of the thumb. Okay, so this radial nerve, it supplies no muscles in the hand, as you already see. So this is the superficial branch of the radial nerve, and it supplies the dorsum of the hand, thumb, and the lateral 1.5 digits, and it supplies no muscles in the hand. But the radial nerve injury in the arm can produce serious hand disability. Okay, so the extensor muscles, they are supplied by the radial nerve. The characteristic handicap is an ability to extend the wrist, result from the paralysis of the extensor muscles of the forearm, all of which are innervated by the radial nerve. The hand is flexed at the wrist and lies flaccid, a condition known as wrist drop, which you already study it in detail. Okay, so the fingers of the relaxed hand also remains in the flexed position at the metacarpophalangeal joints. The interphalangeal joints can be extended weakly through the action of intact lumbricals and interossei, which are supplied by the median and ulnar nerves. The radial nerve has only a small area of exclusive cutaneous supply on the hand. Thus, the extent of anesthesia is minimal even in severe radial nerve injuries and is usually confined to small area on the lateral part of the dorsum of hand. Okay, so this is the Wartenberg syndrome. It is a specific neuropathy that is caused by entrapment or compression of ulnar superficial branch of the radial nerve. Okay, so Wartenberg syndrome, that is a syndrome which is due to the compression of superficial branch of the radial nerve, and the symptoms include the numbness, tingling, and weakness of the posterior aspect of the thumb. Okay, as the superficial branch of radial nerve, it supplies the thumb, index, and middle fingers. Okay, so there is numbness, weakness, and tingling sensation on the posterior aspect of the thumb, and it is not confused with the Wartenberg sensory neuropathy or Wallenberg syndrome. Okay, it is also not confused with the Wartenberg sign, which is also entrapment of the ulnar nerve in the cubital tunnel. Okay, or only just for your prof, only just memorize this, that this is a Wartenberg syndrome and it is due to entrapment or compression of radial nerve, and as a result there is weakness and tingling and numbness on the posterior aspect of the thumb. So this is the ulnar nerve. Okay, so it leaves the forearm by emerging from deep to the tendon of flexor carpi ulnaris, and it continues distally to the wrist via the ulnar canal or Guyon canal, which I already told you in the previous lecture. Here the ulnar nerve is bound by fascia to the anterior surface of flexor retinaculum as it passes between the pisiform bone medially and the ulnar artery laterally. Just proximal to the wrist, the ulnar nerve gives off a palmar cutaneous branch. Okay, so this is the palmar cutaneous branch which you see, which passes superficial to the flexor retinaculum. Okay, it is superficial to the flexor retinaculum and palmar aponeurosis, and it supplies the skin on the medial side of the palm. And the dorsal cutaneous branch of the ulnar nerve, so this is the dorsal cutaneous branch. Okay, it supplies the medial half of the dorsum of the hand. It goes back, okay, and supplies on the dorsum or medial side of dorsum of the hand, the fifth finger, and the medial half of the fourth finger. And the ulnar nerve ends at the distal border of the flexor retinaculum by dividing into the superficial and deep branch. Okay, so this is the deep branch and this is the superficial branch. So the superficial branch of the ulnar nerve, it supplies cutaneous branches to the anterior surface of the medial 1.5 digits. Okay, and the deep branch of the ulnar nerve, so this is the deep branch, it supplies the hypothenar muscles, which are abductor digiti minimi, opponents digiti minimi, flexor digiti minimi. Okay, so these are the hypothenar muscles, the medial two lumbricals, third and fourth. Okay, so the medial two lumbricals and adductor pollicis, so this is the adductor pollicis, and deep head of flexor pollicis brevis, so this is the flexor pollicis brevis, its deep head, and all the interossei. Okay, so these muscles you study already. So you have to remember that in ulnar nerve you have to remember that at which point it is divided into superficial and deep branch, and superficial branch supplies which part and deep branch supplies which muscles. Okay, and then you also have to remember that it has also palmar and cutaneous branch and dorsal cutaneous branch, and palmar cutaneous branch is superficial and supplies the palmar side of the medial side of the palm, and dorsal cutaneous branch supplies the dorsum of medial side of the palm of the hand. Okay, so you have to memorize these things. Okay, this is very important. The deep branch, it also, in addition to supplying the muscles, it also supplies the joints like the wrist joint, the carpal joints, that is between the carpal bones, intercarpal joints, and carpometacarpal joints between the carpal and the metacarpal bones, and the intermetacarpal joints, that is between the metacarpal bones. Okay, so this deep branch, in addition to supplying the it has motor supplies, that is supplies the hypothenar muscles, the interossei muscles, the adductor pollicis, the flexor pollicis brevis deep head, and the third, fourth lumbricals, and all the interossei muscles. Okay, it also supplies the wrist joint, the intercarpal joints, the metacarpal joints, intermetacarpal joints, and carpometacarpal joints. Okay, so this ulnar nerve is also known as the musician nerve, as it is referred as the it controls the nerve. It's also known as the musician nerve or the nerve of fine movements, as it controls the fine movements of hands. Okay, because it supplies the most of the intrinsic muscles of the hands and that are associated with the fine movements of the hand. Okay. So this diagram is very important. You have to memorize that how many branches it has, and superficial supplies which part, and deep supplies which part, and cutaneous has palmar and dorsal branches, and also it supplies which part. Okay. Okay, so this is the ulnar nerve, and the deep branch of the ulnar nerve, it runs between the abductor digiti minimi and the flexor digiti minimi, and it pierces the opponent's digiti minimi and pass laterally within the concavity of the deep palmar arch, and it lies deep to the flexor tendons and supplies 14 muscles, 3 hypothenar muscles, adductor pollicis, all the interossei, dorsal and palmar and medial 2 lumbricals, and it also supplies the joints of the hand, the wrist joints, intercarpal joints, carpometacarpal joints, and intermetacarpal joints. So we will here we can see that in the forearm the ulnar nerve. So this is the ulnar nerve, which is always on the medial side. It divides into the dorsal and palmar cutaneous branches in the forearm, and the palmar cutaneous it goes into the palm, and the dorsal it runs on the dorsal of the hand. And in the hand, the ulnar nerve it also divides into the superficial and deep palmar, deep branch. Okay, so this is the deep branch of the ulnar nerve, which supplies the muscles of the hand, and which I told you previously. And this is the superficial branch, which supplies the sensation to the medial 1.5 digits. Okay. Okay, so the ulnar nerve, it is a dorsal cutaneous branch. It supplies the dorsal surface of the medial 1/3 of the hand and 1.5 fingers. Here you can see. Okay, so this dorsal cutaneous branch of the ulnar nerve, it emerges in the distal forearm proximal to the wrist, and the nerve courses posteriorly deep to the flexor carpi ulnaris and perforates the deep fascia to enter the medial aspect of the dorsum of the hand, and here it divides into 2 or 3 dorsal digital nerves to supply the skin on the medial side of the dorsum of hand, as well as the proximal regions of the medial 1.5 digits, that is little finger and half of the ring finger. Here you can see. Okay, so the superficial branch of the ulnar nerve, it supplies cutaneous branches to the anterior surface of the medial 1.5 digits. Okay, so this is the medial side. The medial 1.5 digits is supplied by the superficial branch of the ulnar nerve. And the dorsal cutaneous branch of the ulnar nerve, it supplies the medial half of the dorsum of the hand, the fifth finger, and the medial half of the fourth finger. Okay, so this is very important in talk. You can ask by the examiner of the nerve supply of the dorsum of the hand. You have to tell which is the cutaneous nerve supply, and which is the palmar nerve supply, and which is the dorsal cutaneous nerve supply. Okay, so the dorsal cutaneous branch of the ulnar nerve, it supplies the medial half of the dorsum of the hand, the fifth finger, and the medial half of the fourth finger. And the superficial branch of the ulnar nerve, it supplies the cutaneous branches to the anterior surface of medial 1.5 digits. And the palmar cutaneous branch, which passes superficial to the flexor retinaculum and palmar aponeurosis, and it supplies skin on the medial side of the palm. Okay, so you have to memorize all these branches. So this is very important. Okay, so this is these all are sensory, and only the deep branch of the ulnar nerve it is motor and it supplies the muscles. Okay, the dorsal cutaneous branch it supplies the dorsum of the fifth and finger and medial half of fourth finger, and the superficial terminal branch it supplies the medial side of the medial 1.5 digits, okay, and on the anterior surface. And this palmar cutaneous branch it supplies medial side of the palm. And the deep branch of ulnar nerve it supplies the adductor muscles, the hypothenar muscles, the palmar and dorsal interosseous muscles, and joints of the hand and lumbricals, medial to lumbricals. Okay, in this picture you can also see that the superficial branch of the ulnar nerve it supplies the cutaneous branches to the anterior surface of medial 1.5 digits, and the deep branch of the ulnar nerve it supplies the motor. It is motor and supplies the muscle, and this is the on this area this palmar cutaneous branch of the ulnar nerve it supplies the skin on the medial side of the palm, and this area is supplied by the dorsal cutaneous branch of the ulnar nerve, and it supplies the medial half of dorsum of hand, the fifth finger, and medial half of the fourth finger. Okay, and so this area it is supplied by the radial nerve, and it's so it is this superficial branch of the radial nerve it supplies the skin and fascia over the lateral two-third of the dorsum of hand and dorsum of thumb and proximal part of lateral 1.5 digits. So whenever there is injury to the ulnar nerve, there is tingling and numbness on this area, okay, on the medial 1.5 digits of the palmar side and also on the dorsal side. And when there is radial nerve injury, there is tingling and numbness sensation on the dorsal of the thumb and medial or lateral 1.5 digits. Okay, and so the rest area is supplied by the medial nerve, which you studied. Okay, so the deep branch of the ulnar nerve, as we already studied, that it supplies the interosseous muscle, the palmar interosseous and the dorsal interosseous. Okay, so the palmar interosseous it adducts the finger, and the dorsal interosseous muscles they abduct the fingers. Okay, so we have memorized from this mnemonic that palmar adduct the fingers and dorsal abduct the fingers. Okay, here you can see in this picture the palmar adduct the fingers, that is move towards the midline, and dorsal abduct the fingers, that is fingers move away from the midline. Okay, so when we test these palmar interosseous muscles, there is adducted the fingers against a piece of paper. Here you can see in this picture the piece of paper. You can hold this piece of paper between the fingers and adducting the fingers against a piece of paper, and person is unable to adduct the fingers. And when testing the dorsal interosseous muscles, there is resisted abduction of the fingers. So you can not able to abduct the fingers. So the action of these interosseous and lumbrical muscle is that there is flexion of metacarpophalangeal joints and extension of interphalangeal joints, and they act to the extensor expansions. Okay, and there is extension of interphalangeal joints. Here you can see the extension of interphalangeal joints and flexion of metacarpophalangeal joints. So in claw hand, when there is damage to the lumbrical muscles, so there is hyperextension at the metacarpophalangeal joint and flexion at the proximal and distal interphalangeal joints of fourth and fifth finger. I'll show you it in detail. So this is the typical representation of the claw hand or the ulnar claw hand, or which is the deformity or an abnormal attitude of the hand that develops due to the ulnar nerve damage, which causes paralysis of the lumbricals. As you already studied that these lumbricals they cause flexion of metacarpophalangeal joint and extension of interphalangeal joint. But in ulnar nerve damage, then the action of lumbricals lost, and there is hyperextension at the metacarpophalangeal joints and Here you can see there is hyperextension at the metacarpophalangeal joints and flexion at the proximal and distal interphalangeal joints of fourth and fifth fingers. And the patient with this condition can make a full fist when they extend their fingers. The hand posture is referred to as claw hand. The ring and the little finger can usually not fully extend at the proximal interphalangeal joints. Okay, the person with the ulnar claw hand, they are unable to abduct or adduct their fingers against resistance, as previously I told you, because the ulnar nerve also innervates the palmar and dorsal interossei of the hand, and the patient with this deformity will become increasingly easy to identify over time as the paralyzed dorsal interossei muscle atrophies, leaving a prominent hollow between the thumb and the forefinger. Okay, so this claw hand is very important, and in the exam, the examiner asked you that how this claw hand, tell me the typical picture of claw hand and which nerve damages and which joints flex and which joints hyperextended. Okay, so you have to tell that in claw hand, it is due to the ulnar nerve injury and there is hyperextension of metacarpophalangeal joints and there is flexion at the interphalangeal joints of fourth and fifth fingers. Okay, and the person is not able to abduct and adduct the fingers, as the palmar and dorsal interossei, they are also affected because they are also supplied by the ulnar nerve. Okay, so this is the typical picture of the claw hand, and as you already know that it causes curved or bent finger, and this makes the hand appear like the claw of the animal. That is why it is known as claw hand. And in this case, you can see the ulnar nerve. It supplies the medial 1.5 digits, and when there is ulnar nerve compression, so there is a loss of action of interossei muscles and lumbrical muscles. You can already see here there is atrophy of interossei muscles, and there is flexion of proximal interphalangeal joints and distal interphalangeal joints. At the fourth and fifth digits, there is hypothenar atrophy, and atrophy of you can see this is hypothenar atrophy, as this ulnar nerve it supplies the hypothenar muscles, and when the ulnar nerve damages, there is atrophy of hypothenar muscles, and they also atrophy of interosseous muscles. Okay, and there is hyperextension of fourth and fifth digits at the metacarpophalangeal joints. Here you can see the hyperextension of fourth and fifth digits at the metacarpophalangeal joints, and inability to adduct the thumb is also present. Okay. So here you can see this is the hypothenar atrophy. You see, this is the hypothenar atrophy. Here you can see the hypothenar atrophy due to ulnar nerve damage. The hypothenar muscles atrophy, and here you can see the interossei muscles atrophy. Okay, so these are the interossei muscle atrophy due to the damage to ulnar nerve. The interossei muscles atrophy, and here you can see the hyperextension of fourth and fifth digits at the metacarpophalangeal joints. And here you can see the flexion of proximal and distal interphalangeal joints at the fourth and fifth digits. Okay. Here you can also see the flexion of proximal and distal interphalangeal joints at fourth and fifth digits. And here you can see the inability to adduct the thumb. Okay. So these are the carpal wounds, and this is the thumb, this is the lateral side, and this is the medial side. Okay, so ulnar nerve basically it leaves the wrist and enters into the hand through by passing through the ulnar canal or Guyon canal, which I previously told you. Basically, compression of this ulnar nerve it occurs at the wrist, where it passes between the pisiform bone and the hook of hamate. Okay, so this is the pisiform bone and hook of hamate. So compression of this ulnar nerve, it occurs here because there is depression between these two bones, and it is converted by the pisiform ligament into an osteofibrous tunnel, which is also known as ulnar canal or Guyon canal. So this ulnar nerve is compressed in this canal, and this syndrome is known as ulnar canal syndrome or Guyon canal syndrome, in which there is numbness in the medial 1.5 fingers, because ulnar nerve it supplies medial 1.5 fingers, and there is weakness of intrinsic muscles of the hand, as this ulnar nerve it supplies intrinsic muscles of the hand. Flowing of fourth and fifth fingers, hyperextension at the metacarpophalangeal joint with flexion at the proximal interphalangeal joints may occur, but in contradistinction to proximal ulnar nerve injury, their ability to flex is unaffected, and there is no radial deviation of the hand. So this is the ulnar canal, you can see, and it is present between the pisiform bone and hook of hamate. So this depression, it is converted by the pisohamate ligament into the tunnel, which is also known as the Guyon canal or the ulnar canal. So there is also another clinical of ulnar nerve compression, which is known as handlebar neuropathy. So people who ride long distances on bicycles with their hands in an extended position against the hand grips put pressure on the hook of their hamate, which compresses their ulnar nerves. Okay, so this is the medial side. Here you can see the ulnar nerve, and this is the hand. And people who ride long distances on bicycle, so this is the bicycle handle, and that is why it is known as handlebar neuropathy, because people who ride long distances on bicycles with their hands in an extended position against the hand grips put pressure on the hook of their hamate, and which compresses their ulnar nerve. So this type of nerve compression, which is called as handlebar neuropathy, it results in the sensory loss on the medial side of the hand and weakness of the intrinsic hand muscles. Okay, so basically in ulnar canal syndrome and handlebar neuropathy, there is almost the same symptoms appear, that is weakness of medial 1.5 fingers and weakness of intrinsic muscles of hand, but the nerve compression is different. If there is compression in the ulnar canal, then it is known as ulnar canal syndrome, or if there is compression of ulnar nerve due to the hyperextended hand, due to the extended hand position with people who ride long distances on bicycles. So that is why it is known as handlebar neuropathy. Okay, so you have to remember the cause of the ulnar nerve compression, and also remember where it occurs. Okay, previously you remember that it occurs at the medial epicondyle at the wrist, and also in the ulnar canal, and also in people who ride bicycles with their hands in extended position. Okay.